Welcome to another episode of Trade Talk. Today I'm joined by Brad Parker, CEO of Mates in Construction, which is a great foundation charity that focuses on obviously anything and everything to do with within the construction industry. As a lot of you within the industry will know, men and people that are it's hard for them to have that communication and so Mates is there to support the guys within the industry, put out the word of the importance of talking to someone, having a chat with someone. And Brad and myself have had many conversations, and it's a great honor to have you on our Trade Talk, Brad. Welcome, and give us a bit of a background about you.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. Look, it's really great to be here, and what I love about the concept of Trademark Group of Companies is that it is mates helping mates, and that's our tagline, right? That's who we are, mates helping mates. So what Mates in Construction is, as you rightly said, we're a charity within the industry. We work within the construction industry, whether that be top-end commercial or whether it be residential. We're all over the place. So we're there who needs our assistance. And Mates were born around about 2008 up in Queensland originally to address the outrageous statistics of suicide within our industry. So we deal with mental health, but we're dealing with the pointy end of mental health, which is suicide. And why do we deal with that? Because the stats tell us that a construction worker is 6 times more likely to take their life than die from a workplace accident. Yeah. We know that the suicide rates are 80% higher in the construction industry than the national age population. So it's not a good start, right? So we're starting from a low base. But what I want to tell you this is not going to be, I'm not going to try and make this a tough conversation. I'm going to try and make it a conversation where we may be able to give some people some tips out there about what you can do. So how pick up the signs when someone's doing it tough emotionally, and then how to keep someone safe while connecting them to help. So I want to point out that there's real hope here, what we're going to talk about today, and it's going to be a positive.
That's what we're all about. You know, as you rightly mentioned as well, Trademark Group is just about mates helping mates and coming together as a community and having a helping hand, having just someone to have a sounding board, just a conversation. And organisation like you guys on board is great, and great value. I love what you guys stand for and what you guys are doing, especially within this industry, and especially during these times that it is quite a tough time right now, especially within the construction industry. I mean, across all industries, but construction was affected as well, and it is an industry that a lot of the people are, on sites every day. They're out there, so for them to not be able to do that and be shut down and have 50% on site, and people that are surviving day by day to be not able to go to work, it's quite tough for a lot of people. So I mean, it's a great time to have this conversation. I really appreciate your time here. When you first heard of COVID last year, when COVID was it was just whispers on the news, you hear something's happening overseas, doesn't really affect Australia, you hear about it all the time and it just blows over. We heard it with Ebola, we heard it with SARS, and it happened, but it wasn't that bad. So hearing about that, and then obviously the run-on effects of the lockdowns that happened late March, early April last year, then coming out of it and then going back into it, what did you expect?
Well, I think I expected, like everybody else, we didn't know. It was the great unknown. And, I've been doing a few toolbox talks in the last couple of weeks. I've been able to get out of my LGA of concern and get out there and do some, because I'm double vaxxed now and all that sort of stuff. But one of the things I raised with them, when COVID first hit in the construction industry, we were considered essential workers, those authorised workers. They were hopping on roads with no cars. They were hopping on public transport with no people. It was eerie. It was surreal. It was, we were going there, we're putting ourselves at risk, catching the virus, a virus that we really didn't know about at that stage, and we're concerned about, our families, and we're very happy to have work. We're happy to be able to have an income. And then let's fast forward to this year. They shut the industry down for a few weeks. And then we're thinking, have we got jobs to go back to? How am I going to provide for my family? We're thinking all that. And then let's talk very quickly about the vexed, or let's not talk about it, the vexed issue of vaccines. That's something that is quite controversial in our industry. We have people on both sides, pro-vax, anti-vax, who have some very strongly held views on this. Now, I advise people, if that's going to divide us, let's not talk about it. Let's avoid the conversation. Let's talk about what unites us. That's so important during these times where we're doing it tough. Let's talk about that. Let's not talk about that. Let's talk about, like the footy, or let's talk about other stuff that can unite us. We also thought at the start of 2020 that suicide rates, and everybody was predicting that suicide rates will increase dramatically. I can tell you it was only a few days ago last week that we had the 2020 suicide rates come in. It can take up to 2 years to view on the cause of a death for a coroner. So that's why it takes some time. But there was a minor fall in the suicide rates, which was good news.
Yeah.
So a marginal decline of 179 deaths. It's still too many. But interestingly enough, what comes out of that is I had a meeting with John Brogden, who is the chair of Lifeline, a couple of weeks back. Now, he said to me at the start of 2020, when the calls into Lifeline quadrupled overnight, he was panicking. He doesn't panic anymore, because if you can combine that suicide rates, just not here in Australia, but internationally, have declined somewhat, but then you have more people reaching out for help, obviously. More people are ringing Lifeline. More people are reaching out to Mates of Construction, Beyond Blue, all those different organisations.
Do you think the reason for, or the decline, I guess, in suicide rates or calls coming in, but not many people are actually, thankfully, not committing suicide, is that because with this digital age, with this sort of pandemic and the environment it's easier for people to reach out when before it wasn't? Do you think that would be the reason, or?
I think we've lost the contact, though, the person-to-person contact. I think we've lost because we were in lockdown, right? But I think also local communities were coming together and looking out for their neighbours. That was probably a plus. But yeah, you're right. There's more awareness around reaching out for help. It's no longer considered a weak thing. It used to be considered a weak thing. It was terrible, right? There used to be a stigma, a massive stigma, a massive stigma around it. I mean, if you look at the stats tell us on average 75% of males suicide compared to 25% of females, right? So we are different beings, male and female. And the elephant in the room is that we are a male-dominated industry in construction. But women are generally better at offloading their emotional feelings, and they're better at asking people, like asking those probing personal questions. How are you going? How's your mental health? How's the family? What's happening with your relationship? Us blokes, we will not talk about our emotional issues. We avoid it like the plague, right? We talk about anything else, right? So I think that's a starting point, what we need to know as well. I think that males are now getting the message that there shouldn't be a stigma attached to, reaching out for help. And I think that's a good thing. And one of the things that the Mates in Construction program does is we encourage help offering and help seeking. And it is about mates helping mates, right? We encourage them to be a good mate. That's what we do. I can tell you a quick story, Dan, about why it worked. In a nutshell, this is why it worked. There's a great story about the Angel of the Gap. You can look this up. A bloke by the name of Don Ritchie.
Yes, I know. Yep.
He died a few years ago of natural causes at the age of 86. But he lived in Watson's Bay on this beautiful headland that overlooked Sydney Harbour, wonderful place. But unfortunately, where he lived, the Gap, is a place where people go to suicide. Yeah. Because it's like a cliff face, right? And he lived across the road, and he would be outraged by the police rescue turning up, then seeing the ambulance turn up, and then a couple of days later seeing the families of lost loved ones, friends of lost loved ones, placing reefs at the Gap there, at that area. So he decided to do something about it. So he would walk across the road if he saw someone standing there alone. He would simply engage in a conversation. He would offer them a cup of tea or a cup of coffee or even a beer. He'd take them back to his home. He would keep them safe while connecting them to help. Now, he wasn't a mental health professional. He wasn't a psychologist or a psychiatrist. He wasn't even a counselling service. He was just like you and I, Dan. And they estimate that he saved over 160 lives. So if he can do it, if Don Ritchie can do it, we can do it collectively as an industry. We can do it, you know?
Yeah,
and that's the premise behind the MATES program. So it's not rocket science, right? But we do teach people what to look for. And some of those signs, and I want to point out to people listening, if they've lost someone to suicide, I am so sorry for your loss. It's heartbreaking and it's devastating. It goes on. However, what I don't want you to do is beat yourself up if you miss the signs, because even the best of the mental health professionals don't pick them up. They're hidden and they're cryptic. It might be like, you know, the bloke, the young apprentice who was running around paying back everybody for their coffees before he attempted suicide. Or it might be, you know, the construction worker who used to play cards in the crib room, in the lunchroom, play cards every lunchtime, removes himself from the lunchroom, goes and has lunch in the car. After the third day he suicides, all the blokes on site said, we didn't know that meant suicide. We just thought he needed a bit of space. Maybe on reflection, we should have tapped on that window and said, mate, what's going on with you? So you don't do the woulda, coulda, shoulda and the what ifs. If you've lost someone, you only beat yourself up and you're only doing yourself damage. It's about looking forward, and there is hope. And there's hope in what we do. And, you know, we've reduced suicides by nearly 8% in our industry. We are evidence-based, research-based. We have a big research arm to what we do. We have a national academic reference group, which are professors and doctors from universities all around Australia. And they're always looking to what we're doing. I call them the nerd squad, Dan, because they're all nerds, right? And we have a bit of a laugh about that. But they do amazing work. And we you know, we're looking to our research that we've reduced suicides. Who would have thought, you know, Australian construction workers, you know, in the industry, reducing suicides. We're looked around the world now. So it was only like 2 months ago that the World Health Organization recognised mates in construction as being world's best practice in Geneva, as world's best practice in suicide prevention in the workplace. Who would have thought, you know?
That's wonderful, man. Like, you know, obviously these topics are very hard to talk about, and as you said, like seeking help or even trying to help somebody is a very, very difficult you know, thing to do, because, you know, just like you mentioned, people don't know, you know, if someone was playing cards and they don't play cards, you wouldn't think so.
Yeah.
You know, for you guys to be able to come along, reduce the rates of suicide and help with mental health and just within that industry, it is very great. It's wonderful, and like, we're so grateful to have people like yourself and other organizations as well that place an emphasis on that and reaching out. And mate, it's absolutely wonderful, and it's honestly touching, you know, because
Yeah.
these topics are very hard to talk about. You know, even talking about it to yourself, it's very hard to have these conversations. So for what you guys do and dealing with people and families that have unfortunately lost loved ones and that have been impacted by mental health and by suicide, it's wonderful what you guys do. And honestly, hats off to you guys and everyone, every organization that does this stuff. It's really great. So.
Well, all we do, Dan, is we use the most important commodity that we have in our industry. It's people.
That's it.
And we come together and we're trying to solve a problem. And I think now the rest of the world is looking to the Australian construction industry to say maybe there is something in this, because they're actually reducing suicides. You know, so, how we do that, we go on site just very quickly. I'll just quickly mention, we go on site, we train people. As I said, you know, what to look for. So it might be that they know what they know about the person, that they've had some sort of loss in their life, where they've lost a loss in a relationship, or a loss of a loved one, family or friend, loss of money, gambling. So some sort of loss, that's the first key. The second key, we ask them to look for changes in someone. So there are changes in their attitude, changes in their appearance. Could be that they're drug taking or alcohol taking. could be that, they look lack of sleep, all that sort of stuff. And then the third bit, so there's 3 bits in it. What they know about them, loss in their life, changes. And the third bit is what they sense or hear. So they may start talking negatively and saying stuff like, I want to throw it in, I've had a gutful, or maybe my family's better off without me, or, everything I do just turns to crap. When they start talking negatively, then we're saying, well, maybe you should call it out on them. We know that you spend more time at work with your work colleagues than you do with your loved ones, family or friends. So we think that you're best placed to notice, to pick up these signs. So maybe you should call it out on them and say, mate, what's going on with you? Can I help you? How can we deal with this? I just want to be a good mate. That's all you have to be. 100%. And it makes a difference.
100%. And as I said, it's the simple things that, you just got to look for, and you people won't know what it is, but you guys coming and educating people and doing what you guys are doing is wonderful. And obviously having a community together that, it might not even be, a bloke might work on a construction site, but go home and, he sees those changes with a loved one that he knows, it doesn't necessarily have to be a colleague, or he might, or a lot of things like that come together with what you guys are teaching. So it's great that it's within our industry, but it's also great that these tools that are taught by you guys and are trained by you guys can be used in other aspects and help other people as well. So again, hats off to you guys. Like, what you guys are doing is great, and we're very proud to be partnered with Mates in Construction. As Trademark Group of companies, promotes this type of construction constructive conversations rather, to be able to be open and have a group of companies, have a group of people within a network that are able to chat, pick up the phone and say, hey mate, not feeling the best right now, I've just been through this thing, and being partnered with you guys is great, and it is really an honor.
It's an honor for us to be part of Trademark, and I just think it's a simple thing. It's how you bring those people together in network to try and work out because there's issues within our industry, right? In everyday issues about supply chains and about, does anybody know something about, you solve those problems, but then you're also offering an opportunity to solve those mental health problems as well.
Of course, 100%.
And those anxieties and all that sort of stuff. So I think Trademark Group of companies and Mates in Construction is a great mix. It just, they bounce off each other. It's wonderful.
Obviously, really appreciate your time. Just wanted to sort of just end on anything, any notes that you wanted to add, anything that you would like to add just before we end this podcast?
Oh, just to say there is real hope, and that we can help each other, and we don't have to feel as though I used to be the Mr. Not help anybody in the industry. I come from the civil sector originally in construction. And I used to think, 1, it was none of my business. 2, I wasn't qualified to do it. 3, somebody else will deal with it. But look, I think that we've got to feel compelled to do something if somebody's not well and mentally, that you just offer them some support, and that's huge just by offering them that. Mm-hmm. So just be a good mate. That's all I say.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Brad. Great chat and a very constructive conversation. I really appreciate your time. I know you're a very busy man, and again, we really appreciate what you guys do. And I hope our listeners also reach out and anything that they need with you guys, it will be great. So thank you so much, Brad. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Ben. Good on you. Cheers.
Have a good one. Thanks, mate. Bye.